Good evening. My name is Krista Kishwa, and I chose to do my project on E. coli, particularly E. coli 0157H7. According to the CDC, E. coli is a bacteria found in our environment, foods, and intestines of people and animals. There are many types of E. coli, but there are particularly 6 types of E. coli that can cause diarrhea or more severe illnesses. These can be transmitted through contaminated water or food, or through contact with humans or direct contact with animals. The most common form of E. coli is O157H7. This type of E. coli produces a toxin called Shiga toxin. This produces symptoms such as diarrhea, vomiting, or worse, hemolytic uremic syndrome. This syndrome is a disorder where the digestive tract produces toxic substances in your body that destroy your red blood cells and eventually lead to kidney failure. According to the CDC, E. coli 0157H7 was first discovered as a pathogen in 1982 during an outbreak investigation of hemorrhagic colitis. It is around 1993 where E. coli 0157H7 became known as a dangerous pathogen as it became a multi-state outbreak in ground beef. With continued research, they found the most common source of E. coli is undercooked ground beef. We have also had incidences where E. coli has contaminated unpasteurized milk, soft cheeses, and fresh produce such as spinach. A little bit of background on different outbreaks that we've had throughout the years. Particularly, these are outbreaks that have had the E. coli 0157H7. In 1992 and 1993, Jack in the Box, which is a pretty big fast food restaurant out in the West Coast, had a ground beef outbreak. In 1997, Hudson Foods also had a meat outbreak. In 2002, Conagra Beef Co., also a meat outbreak. In 2006, there was a recall for prepackaged spinach because there was a contamination of the E. coli. Taco Bell, pretty big restaurant, is in 2006 as well, had an issue with the onions. In 2007, Top Ground Beef Patties. In 2009, JBS Swift Co. Beef Co. 2010, National Steak and Poultry. Also in 2010, Costco Cheeses was recalled. In 2015, Costco Rotisserie Chicken, which is the most recent, was also a recall. In 2016, Adams Farms had beef products that were also recalled. These are different types of beef and vegetables that are and cheeses that were all contaminated with E. coli and had to be recalled at these big organizations. So a little bit more about the transmission. I really liked this photo. I just wanted to kind of share it. So to actually get the E. coli, there's several different routes. It could be direct contact with animals. It could be person-to-person contact. It could be swimming or drinking. It could be your food products such as the unpasteurized milk. It could be soft cheeses. It could be undercooked meat. It could be your horticultural products, which is right in the middle. So if an animal has their feces and the feces gets washed into the soil where the spinach is growing, it could also contaminate that way. So this is just a really good picture I wanted to share. So what's the problem? E. coli is a dangerous pathogen. It can be very minimal or lead to serious health complications. The CDC estimates that 265,000 Shiga toxin E. coli infections occur yearly. 36% of those infections are caused by the O157H7. They also estimate that 3,000 hospitalizations and 30 deaths occur each year. This is a serious public health issue as people are infected with these foodborne diseases by consuming foods that they deem healthy and safe. It's important that we as public health professionals can put in place proper procedures to help minimize and or prevent the contamination of E. coli in our foods. So some different methods. We're going to go over some surveillance methods as well as some prevention methods. Within the research, I found that prevention is the biggest key to help reduce the incidence of E. coli. So personal prevention methods, these are from the consumer themselves. Making sure they're cooking their beef well done to 160 degrees, so making sure they have a thermometer available to measure the temperatures. Do not drink unpasteurized milk products. Making sure they're washing all produce thoroughly. Also, avoiding any cross contamination when using cutting boards. Don't be cutting your meat with your vegetables, and thoroughly washing hands. Some plant prevention methods. There is a hazard analysis and critical control point program that was put in place. And this requires that meat processors have to establish these critical checkpoints to prevent pathogens from contaminating their meat. Food safety agencies will come in and inspect the facilities to be sure that they're complying with this program. The USDA has approved an irradiation process for meat. This is a process where radiation kills E. coli and other bacteria that's in the meat. By implementing both production guidelines and hygienic handling and processing prevention strategies, we're really able to help decrease the incidence of E. coli. Not only with these programs, we also have making sure that the plant preventions that have safe food handling practices as well as hygienic slaughtering practices. So some different surveillance methods. We have the national STEC surveillance data. So this is where it helps us identify laboratory confirmed Shiga toxin isolates. You have the National Notifiable Disease System, Nationally Notifiable Infectious Disease Reports. You have the National Antimicrobial Resistance Monitoring System, and this basically monitors the antimicrobial resistance. And you also have the Foodborne Disease Outbreak Surveillance System, which actually works with the National Outbreak Reporting System, and it collects reports of foodborne, person-to-person, animal contact, disease outbreaks. This also breaks it down to local and state. These surveillance methods are really key in helping us figure out what's going on with these outbreaks. This was one really good graph that I could find on the surveillance. It actually shows in the purple the 0157. This graph was provided by the CDC, and it shows the incident rates of the Shiga toxin producing E. coli. This graph particularly is from 1996 to 2013. As you can see, the purple line represents the 015H7. Since 2000, you can see it's steadily declined, kind of tapered out a little bit. This is due to the previously discussed prevention methods of both the consumer and the producer. We're also better able to track incidents due to different types of surveillance methods that have been put in place. There was no significant chart showing the effects of prevention, but all the research gathered proved that the only way to continue decreasing the incidence, as shown in this chart, is with prevention and continued knowledge of the issue. With all the research that I conducted, there was very limited data on proven prevention methods, no graphs that I could actually show, but all the research that was reviewed discussed prevention and surveillance methods as the overall factor in preventing E. coli from being properly documented and being able to properly document cases. With the incidence increased surveillance methods, we are better able to track outbreaks and the types of outbreaks down to the actual strains and locations, which will help us better with our investigations. This will help public health and professionals in general on decreasing the incidence of foodborne diseases. E. coli is a serious foodborne disease, and proper education to the consumer and the producer is absolutely key. As previously mentioned by the CDC, roughly 256,000 people are infected yearly with 015H7. This number has declined per the graphs in our results section, but this is solely due to the prevention methods and more awareness over the issue. There have been years of historical incidences which we have discussed previously in the beginning, and we've been able to investigate and document us to help duplicate, so to help us decrease any replications in the future. This is really the beauty of our public health surveillance system.